So Lyon's 20-year-old Belgian left winger Malick Fofana has recently been linked with Manchester United, with Lyon reportedly demanding around €50 million, which is around £42 million. Now, is Malik Fofana a highly promising young player? I would say yes. Does he have elite level potential? I would probably say yes, with a maybe next to it, as like with a lot of players, I do think it's highly dependent on the role and the system that he's used in. Is he good enough for Manchester United currently as either an interior forward or a wing back? In terms of starting every week, I would say no. I think that like Garnacho, Dorgu, Xerxes and Mainu, his current ability in that particular role is not quite at the level needed when it comes to consistency as a starting player week in week out across a full season. He's very much like Garnacho in the sense that both players have some highly valuable attributes in their skill set, which are their pace and directness when carrying the ball into space, which can be seen over the past 365 days, as both players do rank incredibly highly for their ball carrying metrics, but simultaneously their close ball control in tight areas or when running at speed with defenders in close proximity can still be very erratic at times, similar to Theo Walcott and Raheem Sterling when they were young, as it's almost like at this stage in their development their brain and technique isn't able to keep up with their speed, which is a fundamental reason for the difference in their FBref report ranking for their ball carrying metrics compared with their take on metrics. Fofana and Garnacho both have similar issues in their game that are going to need time, quality individual coaching, the right tactical role and a degree of patience to iron out, and so I just don't see the point in signing Malik Fofana, certainly not for anything over £30 to £35 million. I think at 20 to 25 million I'd maybe consider it, but there are a number of better options that I think United could get for around the £30 to £40 million price mark, and so I'm going to be telling you about two specific players, analysing why I think they could be the perfect fit for that left wing back role in Amorim's 3-4-3. But before I come on to that, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to jerseyfifa.co. They've got a variety of different current season and retro jerseys, including the newly released Manchester United shirts for the upcoming season, as well as this Manchester United 2006-2007 white away shirt with Ronaldo number 7 on the back, which they did actually send me alongside this Zinedine Zidane Juventus shirt from the 1990s. You can use code ALANTIS at checkout for a 10% discount, so I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comment section below. So like Garnacho, Fofana's chance creation, progressive passing and take on output are levels below his ball carrying. However, unlike Garnacho, who records a substantially higher non-penalty XG, ranking in the 85th percentile compared with Fofana in the 61st, whilst Garnacho in the last 365 days has massively underperformed his non-penalty XG, Fofana has massively overperformed his by 0.21 per 90. Now, as I've said in my Mbumo and Cunha videos, which you can find in the playlist linked in the description, this could be considered a red flag, depending on the context of the signing and the player's history, as like with the other two players this summer, that sort of XG overperformance is certainly unsustainable from one season to the next. But Fofana has shown in previous seasons and in different competitions that he is consistently able to generate not only a fairly high, if not a very high non-penalty XG, but also hit or exceed it in terms of non-penalty goals. Factor in the eye test where Fofana does seem to be a more clinical shooter from the left side of the box when he is shooting with his right foot, or his slightly better ability to manipulate the ball quickly in order to work a shooting angle, and I think you'd have to conclude that right now he is a better finisher, being more composed in these pressurised situations. However, I don't think the difference is substantial, and I'm confident that Garnacho will improve this part of his game over the next 1 to 3 seasons and develop into one of the most effective inside or wide forwards in Europe. And of the two, I'd probably say I prefer Garnacho, as whilst they are around the same current ability, potential wise, once Garnacho improves his upper body physicality, as well as his composure and decisiveness in front of goal, which I think realistically is not more than 3 years away, I think he develops into a better overall player than Fofana, and so because Fofana's signing would primarily be down to his potential with a view of the long term, I just don't see it being worth bringing Fofana in and selling Garnacho, especially when United would only be likely to make around 10 to 15 million pounds on the trade. If you're selling Garnacho for 50 million pounds plus 20 million in add-ons, which I think would be a fair price, rather than going for Malik Fofana, I think there are a number of better options to come in as a young winger and with some development be capable of playing either as an interior forward in the front three or at wing-back, preferably from either side. And I've got two specific players in mind. The first option is Strasbourg's Diego Moreira. 21 in August, was signed last summer from Blue Coat's sister club Chelsea, after they had signed him the summer before on a free from Benfica. I think Chelsea probably do have a buyback clause, which may complicate things slightly, but if United could get Moreira from either club, I think for 25 to 30 million pounds, and maybe between 5 to 10 or 15 million in add-ons depending, would be a far better deal than Fofana for 35 to 40. In terms of current and also potential ability, I think Moreira is a level above both Garnacho and Fofana, as whilst I do think Garnacho has elite level potential, I also think that the probability that he reaches it is lower than with Moreira, especially within the next 1 to 3 years. From the eye test, you can see that Diego Moreira's technique and flair when dribbling, alongside his superior upper body strength, makes him far more capable when dribbling past players in tight areas, unusual for a player who could be considered a fullback, but is derived from his development as a natural winger earlier on in his career. But after being converted into a left-back position this season, he is now the perfect stylistic fit for that wing-back role in Amorim's 3-4-3, someone who could be considered a winger-fullback hybrid, an effective ball carrier into space just like Fofana and Garnacho, but is a superior 1v1 dribbler than both. And in general, for his age and career experience, his end product and output in the final third is incredibly impressive when it comes to his goal scoring, chance creating, ball carrying and dribbling, even for a winger, let alone a fullback or a wingback. I think his potential is huge, and he could develop into a similar type and level of player as Leroy Sané, being someone who could be considered a stylistic alternative to someone like Savinho at Manchester City. And so for 25 to 30 million, 35 million pounds at a push, I would look to do this deal if United wanted a young, high potential winger who could be converted into a wing-back role, potentially being one of the best in the world in that particular role, with Moreira's ability on his right foot also making him effective from the right side as well. Very good when going down the outside and putting in low crosses, as well as when he's cutting infield to deliver a curling in-swinging cross or look to open up a shooting angle. If you're going to pay around 40 million for Fofana, funded by the sale of Garnacho for around 50 to 55, I think you'd just be better off going for wingers with greater 1v1 dribbling ability, physical strength, and also a proven current ability over a longer period than just one season. For a fee between 35 to 45 million pounds, I think a player coming in would have to be around the level but also of the style of a wide attacker like Semenyo or Madueke. Now Semenyo will likely cost in excess of 50 million pounds, which unfortunately would rule him out for United this summer, but a combination of his dribbling ability in wider areas, his pace over shorter and longer distances, and his ball carrying on the transition, as well as his ability to create via a pass or a cross in the final third, and his shooting ability off of either foot in and around the box, alongside being an athletic, physical and defensively disciplined wide player, this sort of skill set would make him the perfect profile of player for Amorim to convert into a left wing back. And I would also say the same with Madueke, as despite him and Semenyo having slightly different skill sets, specialising in different areas, and Madueke being a left footer who primarily wants to play from the right, Chelsea paid £29 million plus add-ons to sign Madueke 2.5 years ago, meaning that they would have paid off some of the transfer fee from the books, making a fee around £40 million with add-ons, a deal that would bring significant amount of profit, and one that I could definitely see them accepting if they were looking to raise money in order to reinvest into new signings towards the end of the window, whilst I would prefer Theo Hernandez and Diego Moreira as a high-volume ball-carrying, dribbling left wing-back, and not just because of the superior current ability of Theo and the potential ability of Moreira, but also because of the 25 to 50% lower transfer fee. But if we couldn't get the sort of fee that we wanted from either Napoli or someone like Atletico Madrid, and we could get Garnacho to Chelsea valued at £60 million, with Diego Moreira maybe being re-signed and then included in the deal valued at around £20 to £30 million, or Madueke valued at between £40 to £45 million, then I do think that that would represent very good value exchange for United, as well as improving the squad as a whole and banking some profit. See, like Moreira, Madueke would provide the 1v1 dribbling ability as well as a versatility between flanks, whilst I would say that Diego Moreira's intricate dribbling in tight spaces is better than Madueke's, who does have a similar chaotic dribbling style at times to Garnacho and Fofana. he is the most direct with the ball at his feet of any of the three, especially when there is space ahead of him, as we can see by the fact that he ranked in the top 1% when compared against every other winger and attacking midfielder in Europe's top 5 leagues over the past 365 days for both his progressive carries and his carries into the penalty area. Madueke can be highly effective from the right side due to his ability to go down the outside or cutting onto his left foot, but at the moment, despite being very good at creating and opening shooting opportunities for himself, as seen by his non-penalty XG rate ranking in the 94th percentile over the past 365 days, as well as in the Premier League this season. But whilst like Garnacho, he is significantly underperforming his non-penalty XG this season, last season in the Premier League in 23-24, he massively overperformed it, with Madueke's non-penalty XG being at the other end of the scale, looking significantly lower than this season in just the 15th percentile. And we're able to obtain further information by looking at the difference in his non-penalty XG per shot from this season in the Premier League to last, where you can see that Madueke was ranking incredibly low in 23-24 with just 0.05 per 90, ranking in the bottom 2%, while simultaneously overperforming his non-penalty XG by 0.2 per 90, ranking in the 93rd percentile for that particular metric. However, if you compare it to this season where his non-penalty XG per shot has more than doubled, you can see that the statistical analysis backs up the eye test, as prior to Moreira in 23-24, Madueke was primarily scoring from long-range, low-probability shots, but with his non-penalty XG and non-penalty XG per shot that low, it was never going to be sustainable. However, now with Moreira this season, the quality of his average shooting positions has increased, which is the primary reason for his dramatic non-penalty XG improvement. But whilst Madueke's dynamic and direct approach in the final third is very effective at creating shooting opportunities, like Garnacho, he still lacks composure and a consistent and effective shooting technique, currently having an underdeveloped coordination between his ball manipulation, shooting, and his own speed with the ball. However, I think putting Madueke on the left side actually simplifies his game, reducing the impact of his lack of composure and decisiveness in shooting positions, which would likely lead to a decrease in his non-penalty XG, but it would work to maximise his best attributes, which is his direct, dynamic and powerful ball carrying ability, alongside his decisive dribbling ability in 1v1 situations where from the left side, rather than having to constantly focus on cutting in field onto his stronger left foot where the space is usually crowded, he can instead focus on beating his man down the outside in order to get into a crossing position. And this season, when he has been used from that left side, I think Madueke has looked very effective when it comes to dribbling down the outside of the fullback, which would work perfectly with him in that left wing back role. Now, he's certainly not the finished product by any means, and I would actually say that Moreira is the better technically of the two, with Madueke's ball control and quick passing not being as consistently sharp as Moreira's, still having frustrating errors in his game, and whilst he is capable of getting into high value goal scoring positions inside of the box and can also score from range on occasion, he can be very erratic and inconsistent with his end product. But given that he only turned 23 in March and would predominantly be playing from a left wing back position in Ruben Amorim's 3-4-3, I don't see it being a major issue, and that's specifically because Madueke's offensive output, which as you can see here, even when compared against wingers and forwards, on a number of plot graphs for dribbling, ball carrying, chance creation and non-penalty XG output, he still stands out and looks pretty good offensively, and so compared to wingbacks and fullbacks, I think Madueke could develop into a similar type of wingback to Alphonso Davies, and like Hamad with this same conversion on the right side, could develop into an elite level wingback, not in the long term but maybe in the next 1 or 2 seasons. I think I would still prefer Diego Moreira over Noni Madueke and definitely over Fofana as a potential Garnacho replacement, and a main alternative to who I said were my top 2 targets for the left wing back position in previous videos, Theo Hernandez and Dwight McNeil, with Diego Moreira being more of a 1v1 specialist than a crosser or a ball carrier, due to his winger-like ball control, quick footwork and trickery in and around the box in congested areas. I think Moreira has higher potential, as well as the cost in comparison to Madueke, which from a PSR point of view with the salary package included, may be 80% to double the price. Also, if you want to pick up any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to jerseyfifa.co. I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comment section below, and you can use code Atlantis at checkout for a discount for a limited time. But if you do want to sign up to my Patreon to read the articles or join the in-game Instagram group chat, I'll leave that linked on the end screen now as well.